It's another day, the sun is shining. Got to know what's going on around you. Wake up, it's the time to motivate your mind. Come with me, let's make this moment brighter. Wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Come on and wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm Anastasia Palacios.
Good morning, I'm Philip Simon, TGIF to you despite.
Despite.
Yeah.
So if I sneeze on air, guys, I assure you it's not COVID-19. Phil has taken it upon himself to sanitize the entire area, which includes having a spray bottle that my allergies are not. Phil, please, we get it. But we are trying as best we can to practice. I don't know if this is 3 feet apart, but I do know that Terrence has been trying to get us to separate for some time. So I think COVID is finally doing it.
COVID is finally doing it. Listen, amazing times. And, of course, yesterday, curfew starts tonight.
Yeah.
Social media, of course, has already put it out there. The PM has exercised the emergency powers for 11 days until the 31st of this month. Businesses are closed to the general public. And the repercussions, we talked about this with Gowan earlier in the week, but the repercussions economically, of course, could be significant, right?
I think they already are.
But first things first, right? So we have to be careful. We have to take this seriously, despite the number of cases, and govern ourselves accordingly.
Yeah, I would have said from earlier in the week that you want it to be one of those situations where you look back at a point in history and you said, oh, well, you guys overreacted, right? Because the point of the overreaction is to stop the spread and to stop the death.
Right.
And so that's why these measures, while new for us who are used to being very free in our movement and free in our democracy, can feel very stringent. And for those who might be concerned about the governance of things in terms of the democracy of it all, might have some very serious concerns. We appreciate that you have to stop this thing. And I think Dr. Forbes, she's been on the show several times before, did an excellent job at explaining that in the press conference yesterday, if you tuned in. And so we really want to encourage you to abide by these rules because these are serious and very critical times.
Yeah.
And then as we look forward to the economy, Phil, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Atlanta's obviously closing their casino.
That's what I heard.
To make sure that they stop the spread. And so we know that a lot of casino jobs will be impacted. Certainly the government is taking measures for that, and they spoke about that in the House of Assembly on Wednesday, talking about the packages that they would have for those persons in the tourism sector. But yeah, in every sphere, it's just, and you realize now how when people say tourism is our number one industry, it impacts everything, down to construction, down to, to every service.
Everything.
And so we are going to see a lot of people, unfortunately, not working. And so we will deal with that, I guess, when we come to the other side of this. But in the meantime, we want to encourage people to be safe, to abide by these rules, and to do the best you can to do your part.
And be your brother's keeper.
Yeah.
We say it all the time here on Bahamas at Sunrise. Listen, continue to be kind, continue to love. This is an opportunity to bring out the best of us and what it truly means to be Bahamian. I have the greatest faith in our people. Chide is shaking his head, but I really honestly do. We do have, some elements there that need to be improved, but I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to humanity, and certainly when it comes to our little piece of the earth that God has blessed us with. People, prove me right.
Yeah, well, I know last night it seems like everybody and their grandmother threw a last-minute party
Yeah, I think
and
so.
apparently,
Everybody was out.
I'm obviously out of the loop, right, guys? So I don't know much, and even before this particular baby, I was not hanging out.
Everybody was out.
But apparently, like it was lit last night. Anywhere you went, there were just crowds of people, and I'm like, guys, you are totally missing the point. Like you can go inside for the next 11 days, but if you spent all this time with people yesterday, I want to do what I've seen, kind of shared online, and that is believe that you have it, and then based on the fact that you believe that you have it, try not to give it to anyone else. So it's no longer about not catching it, but just assuming that you've got it already, and so you want to make sure that you're staying away from people so you're not giving it to someone else. But anyway, got a great show lined up for you this morning.
We've got a great show. Actually, we're going to review and kind of look back at an interview that happened earlier this week with Godwin Bowe. He's CFO at Fidelity Merchant Bank, talking about the economic aspects of, what's happening right now, and of course, Dr. Charlie Bonamy, who also came, he spoke yesterday at the doctor's hospital. He's an infectious disease doctor specialist as well, about the impact of the virus on the Bahamas. Of course, NIB should be here to explain their response. They would have sent out a pamphlet earlier in the week to deal with COVID-19. Of course, a live weekend calendar. I don't know how many things are happening now this weekend, but we'll it's just an announcement.
I would assume so, given
much.
the fact that even funerals and weddings can't be attended.
10 persons or less. Wow.
I really don't think there's going to be much happening on the live weekend calendar, but we do look forward to whatever announcement they have for us. Alive is actually in studio with us today as well, because they're going to be talking about kind of their response to this and what they're trying to do to help businesses and make sure that we've got the right connections.
Virtual meetings. I mean, I was getting all of the information prior to the show. Delmaro was here to talk about it, but I certainly could have used that this week. But we'll give you all the details. He's in the house today.
A lot of people moving into that virtual space now. One of the things that we've said, including the companies that I advise, is just making sure that your staff has reliable internet so that that can't be used as an excuse to not work. And so we'll have that conversation with him this morning. And then FOCO, of course, they're one of those businesses that's allowed to be open during this period to make sure that we get fuel happening where it needs to go. And so their annual general meeting happened recently. We're going to give you a look back at that. And then Dr. Loxley Monroe is here to talk about cancer. And then one of the other essential services that is still open, of course, are pharmacy services. And so we're going to be talking about that.
Pharmacies were wild.
Pharmacies were wild, and they weren't giving you 2 packets of vitamin C. They were just not having it, You could choose the haloborin or the Cetirizine with 1,000. What are you going to do, right? And so we're going to just talk some more about pharmacy services and the types of medications that you want to, I guess, build up your immune system, because Dr. Sands has said there is no cure per se. But there are certain things that you can take that will help.
But it's interesting too. No cure, but we have tons of viruses already. I should say it like this, but we have viruses that are already in the human body, and I think the difference with this one is we just don't know how to deal with it yet.
Well, I will also say, though, that there's still no cure for the common cold, which is a virus, and no cure for the flu, which is also a virus. And so they're, in comparison to antibiotics, which has like several different variations, the antiviral drugs that exist are very limited. And so viruses have been one of those things that we've still not fully, even in our 2,000 years post-Christ life, have been able to figure out. And so, social distancing, and then we'll have those conversations for you so you can just learn some more. Before we get to any of that, we're going to find what the weather looks like. Whether or not this matters, because finally it looks like I can go sailing, but then the PM says no private charter boat, so I don't know what's happening, okay? But Godfrey's going to let us know how we can look outside our windows and what we should see. There's Godfrey Burnside with our first look at weather.
Weather at sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First in Insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, Star, and good morning, Bahamas. Your first look at weather sunrise. It's spring. Today is the first day of spring. High pressure downward the feature across the islands will generate some breezy conditions, but those weather also stable and dry conditions over the next several days. Great weekend is the weather-wise star for you. In your weather today, partly sunny, windy, and warm, with a chance of a few quick passing showers. High temperature reaching 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, another breezy and mild night. You low going down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And some regional highs and lows across the Caribbean. Barbados 81 and 65. In Jamaica 80 and 70. In Trinidad 84 and 74. And the Turks and Caicos Islands 84 and 71. Across North America, Atlanta 76 and 62. In Raleigh 82 and 67. In Miami 81 and 74. Dallas, Texas 67 and 48. And Toronto, Canada 59 and 33. As we go next several days, high pressure will be the dominant weather feature. So we're looking at partly sunny skies, warm conditions, light chance of passing showers. Those winds will start decreasing by tomorrow, and you can expect long days because of daylight saving time. So you can enjoy the beach during the daytime after 5 o'clock, and then you can go home. That puts you up in your first look at weather sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Phil.
Thanks very much, Godfrey. Of course, during times of crisis, they've always proven themselves to be very reliable. More so now than ever before. We're very pleased to have in the studio this morning Delmaro Duncombe. He's the Senior Alive Business Partner. A long time, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're doing our best to practice social distancing here on Bahamas at Sunrise.
Indeed.
But, we're talking about, obviously, working from home. Yeah,
Yes.
And not just now over the next 11 days or so, but certainly it could become a practice that could prove beneficial to businesses, to individuals. Give us an idea of how Alive is making this possible.
Well, through the partnership of Alive and Kill Bahamas.
Okay.
And just to give you a bit of a nugget, I've got promoted.
Okay.
So not only am I still a part of the Alive team, but I'm now officially under the Kill Bahamas banner, under the banner of Kill Bahamas Business Solutions.
Okay.
And so I'm now the head of small and medium businesses. And so to your point, with social distancing, working remotely, now more than ever before, it becomes very important for companies to stay in touch, stay in contact, stay in communication. And so we have a number of services that are available to assist companies to continue to operate in this new climate.
Okay.
As you said, through COVID-19, we've now had to change the way we've done doing business.
Right.
And there's no telling how long it's going to last.
Right.
But I suspect some parts of it is going to become the new norm, particularly if you're doing businesses.
Right,
So
right.
we have services. We have our conferencing services. We have an audio conferencing service. Also, we have a virtual meeting service that we are promoting to businesses. It's something that Kill Bahamas we've always had. We've just never really promoted it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have to now let businesses know during this time through COVID-19 that you can still stay connected with your teams through the service that we offer.
And it's interesting, you talk about always having it. I mean, some of us in business have gotten used to, utilizing those long distance, conference call numbers, and then of course, Zoom and other types of applications like that. But it's so good to know that we do have a local solution. How does it work?
Well, the audio conference bridge, the web teleconferencing bridge, you dial a local number. It's a 603 number that you can dial. There's also a long distance code, a long distance number for a toll-free long distance number that anyone of your foreign business partners can dial into as well.
Okay.
So it's a local number for Bahamian attendees, and then there's a U.S. toll-free number for international attendees. That you dial in, the moderator will put in a moderator PIN code. All the participants will put in that PIN code, and boom, everyone is in the room, and you're able to communicate seamlessly.
So it works kind of like what we've been normal to seeing and using. Applications from across the world. Is there a limit to the number of persons that can participate on the conference call function?
On the conference call function, you can have up to 50 people.
Up to 50 people.
Up to 50 people, and the best part about it is the price. It's very, very affordable.
Okay.
The teleconferencing solution start at $20 a month.
$20 a month.
$20 a month.
Can't beat that.
$20 a month.
Yeah, can't beat that. What about with the virtual meeting? How many persons, I guess, on the screen? I guess it depends on the screen itself. But how many persons could you actually utilize on the virtual meeting? Because again, it takes into account video as well, right?
It does.
Okay.
It does. So if anyone is familiar with the likes of a Zoom service, the video conference virtual meeting service that we offer works similarly, right?
Okay.
So again, whoever is going to be the host for the meeting, you would send an email out to whoever the attendees are. They will click the link, or they can access the call by telephone as well if they're not able to log on with their laptop. So you click the link, you log on, and boom, you're into the meeting.
Okay.
And whoever is a part of that meeting, you can share screens. So if you need to share files, if everyone needs to look at a particular document, It's perfect for the likes of, say, board meetings. If you need to look at minutes, if you need to look at any of the agenda items, someone can share the screen with all of the users, and that can be done with any of the users that are part of the group.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting.
And the
again,
beauty of it all, it's all local, right?
all local,
So
right.
end-to-end security. Unlike some of the free services that are available online, you don't get caught up after 40 or 45 minutes. If you need to record a session, you can record up to 5 gigs of data that's available to you to come back to whenever you need it.
Okay.
And more importantly, it's the data. It's kept secure. It's kept here. It's kept
Is this the
locally.
same $20? I mean, is it a different cost for?
It's a different cost.
All right.
But we are encouraging businesses to give us a call.
Okay.
And we will be able to walk them through the available options and what would be best for their operation.
How is again Rev and Alive functioning now? Given the announcements of yesterday, maybe it's a little too soon, but are the stores still open? I mean, obviously you can call in and purchase these packages as well, I would imagine.
Well, I'm happy that you asked that question. I have to give kudos to the leadership of the Kill Bahamas team and the leadership of Mr. Franklin Butler. We have been talking about this now for quite some time.
Okay.
In terms of what the impact of COVID-19 can have on the country
Okay.
and essentially on our business.
Okay.
So Mr. Butler's been getting his leadership, all of his managers and supervisors prepped. And by extension, the rest of the team, the rest of the Kill Bahamas family has been prepped and ready for this. So when the time came, by the time the announcement came around, most of the company was already working remotely, right? So even my team, anyone that's part of the sales team, we've been working remotely. We've been having a conference call, so we've been using the services as well. So we have been prepared. And so that's a direct correlation to the leadership and Mr. Butler, and that is definitely something I think all KO Bahamas employees can appreciate.
So again, if somebody's interested in these services, they can simply either continue to call the telephone number or online. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, they can contact us by 601-8911 at 601-8911, or they can email businesssolutions@kobahamas.com.
All right.
Businesssolutions@kobahamas.com.
All right, excellent. Delmaro Duncombe, again, give us that updated title.
I'm the head of small and medium business,
Yeah.
KO Bahamas Business Solutions.
All right, listen, so good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you
How's
for
the
having
little
me. Oh, my baby, she's watching me now.
She's watching you now.
She's watching me now.
All right,
My
man, listen,
beautiful Liz.
thank you
My
so much.
beautiful girls.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Steve. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. Doubting Father, listening. We'll be right back.
We get up early every morning to offer safe and dependable service. Where quality service is paramount. An excellent travel experience is priority. Connecting the islands of the Bahamas to the world. Bahamas Air. We don't just fly here, we live here.
Good afternoon. First response. How can I help you?
I've been in an accident on West Bay Street. Can you send someone to help?
Yes, ma'am. A first response team will be there in 15 minutes. Are you hurt?
No, I'm fine, but a bit upset.
We're glad you're not hurt. Please, try to relax. Our team will take care of everything as soon as they arrive.
First Response provides immediate on-site service and support from the scene of an accident through the claims and repair process. And it's free to all Bahamas First insured drivers in New Providence every day for any type of accident. If you drive and want First Response on your side, call 321st or visit bahamasfirst.com for the name of an authorized Bahamas First agent. First Response can't prevent an accident from happening,
But it can certainly ease your mind when it happens.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Bahamas at Sunrise. We're continuing our conversation this morning, talking about health as we said that we would, but this time we're talking specifically about cancer. Obviously, we know that cancer impacts us Bahamians, whether directly or indirectly, and we wanted to learn some more this morning from the expert himself, Dr. Loxley Monroe, surgeon. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise, Dr.
Good
Monroe.
morning. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you with us. This is certainly a serious disease, and we're in a very health-conscious space right now. Obviously, with the focus on COVID-19, but cancer continues to be something that's underlying, and procedures might even be impacted by this virus. And so all of it's really connected.
Yes.
When we talk about cancer in particular, it can be so varied. How many types of cancers are now identified?
Oh, there are lots and lots of cancers. Skin cancers, brain cancers, nasal.
Nasal?
Yes.
Wow.
Nasopharyngeal cancers, laryngeal, thyroid. Just about any structure or organ in the body can actually transform into a malignancy.
Wow.
Yes, just about anyone. Skin, colon, uterine, ovarian, all of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there some that we see more commonly here in the Bahamas than others?
Yes. Well, throughout the world, there are certain cancers that are more common than others.
Okay.
In other words, if you look at breast cancer, that's very, very common.
Okay.
Colon cancer as well. Some of the blood cancers, like the lymphomas or the leukemias, those are very, very prominent in little children.
Okay.
They impact the children more so than adults.
Okay.
Yeah. So it varies depending on the country, depending on the patient's age, and obviously to a certain extent where that person may be employed or what they are exposed to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then, of course, there are types of stages of cancer. So if you diagnose early on, people say you have a greater chance. So are all of the cancers that we're aware of, particularly those that really impact our community, moving from stages 1 through 4?
Primarily, that is how we stage them. Some folks would say stage 0, but the purists would say that there is no such thing as a stage 0 cancer. And that is what we call, like, for breast cancer, in situ.
Okay.
And what that means is that the abnormal cells have not actually invaded beyond a certain boundary.
Okay.
The gynecologist, because you have gynecology oncologists, they call that intraepithelial, meaning that it remains in the lining. It does not actually go into the body.
Okay.
So they've changed it from stage 0 to intraepithelial.
Okay.
Of course, then you have stage 1, 2, 3, 4, which simply means that 1 means that the disease is confined to that organ of origin. Stage 2 means that it has gone to the lymph nodes, the regional lymph nodes. In other words, if it's a breast cancer, you'd be looking for nodes primarily in the armpit, under the arm.
Okay.
If it's colon, when you have to deal with that, so there are nodes that are near to the blood supply to the colon. You look for that, colon, stomach. The thyroid, same thing. You look for spread to the neck and to the lungs and so forth. And then stage 3 means that either it is locally advanced, like for some breast cancers, it's attached to the skin or to the underlying muscles, or you have a huge number of nodes. Stage 4 means that the thing has actually spread to other parts of the body. That's stage 4, yeah.
Okay. Now, I hear you talk about this, and I think about some of the people I've known who've had these cancers, some obviously being able to be treated, some going into remission for many years and just doing quite well, and then others who, for whatever reason, don't make it.
Yes.
Is there anything that we could do in a preventative measure to kind of try to stop ourselves from getting cancer? Or is this something that people just incur at some point in their life because of the cancer cells in our bodies?
Well, cancer is a health issue, and your health is dependent on any number of things, including your genetics.
Okay.
In other words, there are some folks who have DNA, their genes, that put them at tremendous risk for cancer. And you're talking in the Bahamas, a lot of the patients that I see, particularly with breast cancers, they come from Eleuthera. I have families out of Acklins and Andros where they have a high incidence of breast cancer. And when they were analyzed, they were found to have the breast cancer gene, the BRCA gene. I have dealt with patients who have familial polyposis coli. These persons have hundreds and thousands of polyps in their colon. And they are at high risk. By the time they are in their 20s to 30s, you got a maybe 20, 30% chance of getting cancer. By the time they get into their 50s, it's like 80%, they're going to develop colon cancer.
Wow.
So it's genetically based.
Okay.
Then, of course, there are those who smoke cigarettes and that kind of stuff. You're exposed to certain things, asbestos, as you know, they have that on TV all the time, mesothelioma. Just recently, they spoke about talcum causing ovarian cancer. Yeah. So there are genetic, intrinsic stuff, and then there are environmental things that cause persons to develop cancer.
Wow.
So you always have, sometimes you're not aware of the problem because particularly with the environmental things, it could be up to 20 years after your exposure that you develop the cancer. So the connection
may not even occur to you.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, you've got a paper in your hand there, and I want to ask about it because I'm assuming that it's somewhat relevant to the conversation. So,
it is. Yeah, I just put a little summary together in case you ask me something, and I would have refreshed my mind about
well,
what
you've been
you
handling it so far, so I'm not even going to worry about the paper. All right, Doc. So now as we obviously we're dealing with COVID-19 and we've taken all these precautionary measures, and the idea, of course, is we want to stop the spread. Are there precautionary measures we can be taking as much as possible to put ourselves at better chances of beating cancer if we have it, or to prevent getting it at all? Should we be looking at like diet and lifestyle? I know that's very important for like our diabetes and hypertension patients, but does the same thing apply to cancer?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
One of the things that you would note, and it's not absolutely true, and that is that the incidence or the reporting of cancers seem to have gone up. And part of that may be because our population has increased, our lifestyles have changed. In growing up on the island, you walk to school, you walk to the field, you had to go pull top and that sort of stuff. You ate locally grown, your subsistence farming. There were very little in the way of processed foods. We ate dry fish, dry cow. Those were things that we did ourselves. Unlike when you're putting preservative into things to keep them, to give them a longer shelf life. Now, one of the things with preservative is that if they stop the food from spoiling, then they are also stopping your body from functioning.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
For instance, people speak about nitrates, nitrates in sausage and those sorts of things. That nitrate prolongs the lifetime of that sausage. But when that gets into your body, it is converted to a chemical that possibly have the potential to cause a cancer.
Wow.
See, so
Doc, you don't want me to eat sausage and grits this morning, and that makes me very sad, Doc. But no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that we have to look at things from all angles. And if we're serious about beating stuff like cancer, then those things matter as well.
And then too, when you talk about like nowadays, we spend a lot of time in buildings and air conditioned, as opposed to being out in the sunlight where you're going to sweat, your body is going, you have to drink water and that kind of stuff. That's right, you clear yourself.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, Doc, thanks so much for coming and sharing with us this morning. I mean, I know that we have to maintain social distancing as a part of the policy for the next 11 days, but certainly if we can find some time to just walk around the backyard or do things like that, it would help.
It would help tremendously.
And then, of course, we want to encourage people to come in and get early testing as much as possible as well.
Early testing is a huge part of your prognosis, that you actually can beat the cancer if you detect it early and treat it rather than trying to ignore it.
All right.
Claim the cancer, don't allow the cancer to claim you.
That is powerful, Doc. That is powerful. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back here on Bahamas at Sunrise.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Business in the Box is your solution for business from Cable Bahamas. It's an internet, voice, mobile, and advertising solution all in one place. Get reliable internet, free domestic call, and a live corporate package, and free TV ad placement, all starting with packages as low as $164 a month. You can save over $3,000 a year. Just call 601-8911. That's 601-8911. And ask for Business in a Box from Cable Bahamas Business Solutions. Terms and conditions apply.
One thing, two things, blue thing, old things, things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right, and in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. Focal Holdings Limited recently held its annual general meeting of ordinary shareholders at the Franklin R. Wilson Graduate Center. The company, now in its 20th year, has a lot to celebrate and no plans of slowing down. Apatur Rose has more on this story.
Focal Holdings Limited has grown exponentially over the past 2 decades. Its success has also brought financial success to many Bahamians whose investment fueled the company's vision.
Sir Franklin Wilson, Carol Lashley, and I were given the task to take Focal public by July 1999. We quickly settled on the theme, fueling growth for people, and offered the public the opportunity to purchase Focal shares for $5 per share. An investor who purchased 1,000 Focal shares for $5,000 in 1999, as at fiscal year end 2019, owned 12,000 Focal shares, valued just under $41,000, and would have received dividend payments of just over $15,000. I repeat, an investor who purchased 1,000 Focal shares for $5,000 in 1999, as at fiscal year end 2019, owned 12,000 Focal shares, valued just under $41,000, and would have received dividend payments of over $15,000. Since going public in 1999, Focal has consistently paid quarterly dividends for 20 years without fail, returning $170 million to our shareholders. This achievement clearly demonstrates that for Focal, fueling growth for people was more than a slogan, but a core business strategy.
According to Mr. Robinson, Focal's success is fueled by consistent leadership, godly wisdom, and superior customer service, a winning combination evident in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian.
Upon the passing of the storm, our engineering and maintenance staff were immediately deployed to Abaco. Temporary mobile fueling equipment was shipped from Nassau and strategically located to restore fuel distribution on Abaco and the Keys. As a result of the commitment of our staff, fuel distribution was restored on Abaco within days after the passing of the hurricane, which helped to restore a sense of normalcy to the island. Despite being personally affected by the hurricane, management and staff on Grand Bahama were able to restore fuel distribution on the island within hours after the passing of the storm.
Focal Holdings Limited is moving forward on the advice of great leaders past.
Our late chairman and president for more than 32 years, Sir Albert Miller, often reminded management, when well-intended people come together, they can achieve great things. On behalf of the board of directors, thank you for helping FOCO achieve great things. With God's help, we are preparing for the next 20 years.
For Sir Franklin Wilson, Focal chairman, 2020 is proving that his company is on the fast track.
Those of you who follow the company would know that we've published our results for the first quarter of this current fiscal year. Now I want you all to do the math. The first quarter results for fiscal 19 was $6.5 million. For the first quarter of fiscal 20, we're at $9.1 million. That's an increase of 40%.
Incudus is a shared workspace company that provides services for professionals, freelancers, anybody that's in need of a turnkey solution for a private office space, a conference room rental, or part-time office space service. One of our main services that we provide to our members is high-speed internet access. There can be up to about 50 members within our space utilizing the internet and the Rare Voice services. And Rare has done an excellent job of dedicated, reliable, high-speed internet service.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. We're at the halfway point on this, I want to say fabulous Friday, but curfew-induced Friday.
Curfew-induced Friday. Wow. It's amazing. Starting tonight, right?
Starting tonight.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's police state, but certainly things are going to be a little different.
Yeah.
Things are going to be a little different. Probably the worst day of the week to start a curfew.
Actually, it was very intentional that it was the best day of the week. Like, this was very, like, I don't know if you guys realize the timing of this, right? But I work in political strategy sometimes, and this was perfectly timed. All right, guys. So Sunday, we're going to let them know this is what happened. Yeah. Tuesday, we're going to tell them, okay, come into Parliament on Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to announce these things in Parliament. By virtue of us announcing it, that means at any other point, we can come forward now and say whatever we want to say because we've laid the legislation on the table. Thursday is the perfect time to announce this at 5 p.m. Why? Because they only have a limited time to get between their homes and the bar if they're going to go out the same night. If they didn't make any plans, then it's perfect because now who's going to watch the kids? So they have 5 to 10 on a Thursday night to figure out their entire lives because come Friday at 5 o'clock, nobody can go anywhere. Friday is happy hour at 6. Perfect time to do it, Thursday at 5. Love it, government. Well done.
You-
Very well played. Very well played.
You're giving them all of that credit.
I am.
Okay, all right.
I am giving them all that credit.
All right.
The idea was no movies for y'all, no Iraqi for y'all. Like, it was very clear. No liquor for y'all.
There will still be Iraqi.
Police, I tried, okay? Obviously, the man wants to be arrested. He's barely got $18,000 to pay his fine. There will be no Iraqi, folks, okay? The curfew is
boy.
very serious, and we have to take these things very seriously. If you would like to have a happy hour, you can do it virtually through a Lives platform. You call a friend, they call a friend, everybody sit with their drinking, you do chairs over the phone, and then you move on with your lives. Welcome back, dads, to the family unit, where we stay home and watch our children. In the second half of the show.
Yeah, we're going to be talking with NIB.
And we're also going to be talking with one of our local pharmacies about some of those pharmacy medications that you can expect to find available. And of course, we've got the Alive Weekend calendar for you as well.
Yeah, and we also have a conversation with Gowan Bo and Dr. Shalyan Bonamy. That was early in the week. Still very relevant, despite all the curfew talk.
Yeah, facts. He's said he's going to get over it. Hey, it's Godfrey Burnside with a second look at the weather that you will not get to enjoy.
Weather at sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First. First in insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, Star. Good morning, Bahamas. Yes, second look at the weather at sunrise. High pressure down in the fish across the island generates some breezy conditions, but those winds start dying off for the northwest Bahamas starting tomorrow, but they will continue the central and southeastern islands through the weekend. In your marine forecast today, those winds east to 15-25 north seas, 5 to 8 feet over all areas. Come tomorrow, they start off easterly at 15-20 knots over the northwest Bahamas, but by mid-morning start dying up 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 feet, but it will continue 15 knots, 4 to 6 feet over the central and southeastern islands. Then on Sunday, winds continue east to 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 feet in the northwest Bahamas, 15 to 20 knots, 4 to 6 feet over the central and southeastern islands. Yeah, tides. Had a tide at 6:11 this morning. Next low tide will be at 38 minutes past midday. High again this evening at 6:33. Sunset at 7:21 this evening, rises by 7:13. UV index 7, your water temperature 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and the moon phase now moving towards a new moon. Extended like a lovely weekend so weather-wise, lots of sunshine, warm temperatures, breeze dies over northwest Bahamas, continuous southeast Bahamas. Temperature daytime will be in the mid-80s, at nighttime in the lower 70s. That puts you up on your phone. Look at weather sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. In case you didn't know, there are various stages that the NIB, the National Insurance Board, operates at. Here this morning to tell us all about that is Pandora Butler. She's the Public Relations Officer at NIB. She already made sure that we had our social separation. Good morning. Welcome to the show. A lot is happening, and NIB is currently at the orange stage alert. For those people who don't know, and this is the first time they've ever heard about that, just give us a quick summary on exactly what are the stages, what they mean, and where we are right now.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So good to be here. Well, I just spoke to the director. We've already transitioned with the announcement yesterday by the Prime Minister. We're now in the red alert stage.
Red alert.
Now, what we're talking about is these are just stages of alert that determine what national insurance will do, the actions we will take. This is a part of our business continuity plan. As you know, national insurance as Social Security for the Bahamas is incredibly vital to the lifeblood of this country, and so we have been planning for months now. Well, we've been planning for a long time some of these initiatives we're taking, but they've been accelerated as a result of COVID and the threat that poses to our operations and to our mandate to provide Social Security coverage for our customers. And some of those things are to mitigate the threat for our customers, particularly our elderly. We want to ensure that they are safe. We want to advance the social distancing concept that we've been told to do by the Ministry of Health. We want to protect our staff as well. And so just coming out of the orange stage, there are some things I just want to reiterate from that stage. Now, let me just say, now that we're in the red stage, our offices are still open around the country. However, some operational changes are going to be coming.
Okay.
And those will be announced by our director perhaps as early as today, certainly as early as today. Critical services that we provide, have been providing, we will continue to provide. It may be from the physical offices, it may be from home, but we will continue to provide those to our customers. Now, we want to talk about the stages. We started, of course, at yellow. Yellow is when we started all the planning. We were at orange until yesterday, as I said. Orange talked about how are we going to deliver these services. So some of the things we did, and we send these out to the public, some of the things we did was we suspended most of our face-to-face interactions. One of those being, you know, the smart card is in demand, and quite often there are scores of people there seeking cards. We've suspended that. We want people to keep their distance from one another, to limit their exposure. And so we suspended the cards. We provided an email address where people can email in if they want the renewals. But we've sent out notices to stakeholders like the banks, insurance companies, everybody else who's been asking or who ask you for your card or it's expired. Now you need a renewed one because we can't use it. Well, we've said to them, the national insurance card, which contains the national insurance number, though it expires, it's still valid. It's still legitimate. You are the same person, your picture is the same, your number never changes. And so we've done that. We've sent that out. We've also been encouraging, and we've been doing this for years. 2006 is when we started it in earnest, asking our beneficiaries, our pensioners, to please designate for us a bank account into which we can pay your pensions in particular. Short terms, we started a couple of years ago, but the bank accounts for pensioners, we've been pushing that. So it's more critical today. We don't want people to come to national insurance to collect checks, putting themselves at risk and our customers at risk. So we're accelerating that. During the orange stage, we accelerated that. We're asking folk, please come in, go on the website, get a direct deposit form, email that in. We have an email site set aside just for that as well. And so we're asking them to please let us know what your bank account is so we can send your monies to you so there's no interruption in your pension. And speaking of pensions, a lot of people have been asking this week, what's going to happen because pensions were due to be paid on the 24th. Well, we've accelerated that as well. So I am advised that pensions should be in people's bank accounts today. And those checks, they need to listen out for the almost 1,000 or more than 1,000 persons who still collect checks in person. As I say, we're trying to discourage that, but we will make announcements as far as that's concerned, or they can call in. Again, the director has confirmed that staff will be in place today, but operational changes are coming, so they can still call us. We're also trying to encourage employers. This is very, very important. We're encouraging employers to sign up for our employers' self-serve portal. With the self-serve portal, they're going to be able to do some critical things. They're going to be able to send in B80s and Med-4s. A B80 and a Med-4 are the forms that support claims for unemployment benefit and sickness benefit. The B80 is the employer's termination or layoff certificate. It confirms for us the conditions under which a person is laid off or terminated. It also confirms for us name, national insurance number, those kinds of things when they're going to go back to work. Very critical. The Med-4 is that which supports the claims for sickness benefit. Now, you would have heard, you saw the notices that went around, you would have heard that national insurance provides and has provided for decades for persons to be paid sickness benefit not only when you contract a disease or you get sick or you fall ill, but also in quarantine situations. So if you've been set aside, if you've been asked to go home, you're under quarantine, you're under observation as a result of having been exposed to or contracted or being suspected of contracting an infectious disease, national insurance will pay you sickness benefit. So we need those Med-4s, we need the B80s on the UEB side to come in to support such claims.
Download and fill those out?
www.nib-bahamas.com. Today, we're still asking you to download it, fill it in, and email it back to us. We're discouraging you coming in.
Well, you've covered sickness pretty well, and of course the information is also out there. But given the times, and we're talking about unemployment benefits now, and given the announcements, given that persons are being discouraged to work from home, persons also, hear what's happening with Atlantis and other places where people are being sent home.
Yes.
For a period of 2 weeks or more.
Yes.
Unpaid leave.
Yes.
How does that announcement work for unemployment benefits?
Okay.
And layoffs. This is technically a layoff, or even though it's a short period of time?
Okay, thank you for that question. It speaks to the heart of Social Security, and it speaks to the heart of why unemployment benefit was introduced in the permanent stage in 2010. When you're laid off, when you are losing income because your employer, and this is what the law says, because your employer has no work for you to do in that period, then unemployment kicks in. Now, you're talking about employers sending people home. Now, there are different conditions, varying conditions, under which they send them home. I've heard of people who've been forced to take or asked to take vacation. That will, of course, not attract unemployment because vacation is simply paid time off. So that won't attract it. Then, of course, there's the straight up laid off, no income. That attracts UEB. I heard last night of another condition under which the persons were sent home. The employers gave them half of their salary. So half of the salary can be converted to how many weeks of payment, just like severance. So if, and in her case, she said, one of the ladies said they were sent home for 2 weeks. They were given half of their pay, which means they were paid for 1 week and they have another week unpaid. And so that week unpaid will attract unemployment. But it must be noted that unemployment, there's a 3 waiting days, just like sickness. People are familiar with this. There's 3 waiting days for which you are not paid. And so whatever period is left, then you will qualify for unemployment. Unemployment benefit is 50%, half of your average insured income. Average insured income. Another thing we've done, Phil, is we've suspended verification. Again, very important. I don't know if you know, in relation to pensions, persons must verify, that is, confirm their continuing eligibility to receive their pension, and they must do that twice a year. And so National Insurance has suspended verifications for at least the next 3 months, and we'll see how it goes. I think we're talking about till September. We'll see how that goes. What that means is, in addition to suspending the need for them to come in to be verified, we've also suspended our automatic suspension of their benefits if they fail to be verified. Because if you don't verify, if you don't prove your eligibility for it, the system, or our system, will suspend your payments and force you to be verified, but we're going to suspend that as well. A lot of suspensions.
We could probably do the whole show just on this.
Yes.
But for persons who might have not gotten all of that, again, tell us where they can get that information and the numbers that they can call.
Okay, nib-bahamas.com. That's www.nib-bahamas.com. And for the younger folk among us, we also have a Facebook page. So they can go to visit the Facebook page. They can send messages. There are various, and there are like 3 or 4 email addresses that were created just for this. The one that springs to mind more easily that they may remember is customer service at nib-bahamas.com. Oh, and my memory not that bad as I thought it was, because there's also verifications at nib-bahamas.com. So then there's compliance. So any number of avenue or means by which they can get international insurance.
All right. Well, listen, Pandora Butler, Public Relations Officer at NIB, a lot of good information. Thank you so much for being here on Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to get the word out.
All right, great. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
This is Eddie, and Eddie's a change counter. This is Sean. Sean doesn't have to count change because when Sean purchases a plan with Alive, it's VAT inclusive. Keep things simple. Just like Alive's all-new VAT-inclusive prepaid plans with more talk, more text, and even more data. So don't be an Eddie. Freedom simplified. Alive. Believe in best.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest, with all the benefits of a comfort suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of comfort suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Bahamas at Sunrise. Well, if you've had concerns about pharmaceutical needs during this crisis, then now is the time for you to stay tuned in. We're very happy to have Dr. Marvin Smith, who's the president of the Caribbean Association of Pharmacists, also known as CAP. He joins us this morning, and he's going to be giving us all of the details on exactly what our pharmacists are doing to make sure that they're prepared, and then, of course, what you need to do to make sure that you're prepared. Dr. Smith, good morning and welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and obviously a very serious conversation. We know that a significant percentage of our populations use medications regularly, and so this has been a major concern. Let's begin first by talking about the level of prescription drugs needed to actually treat COVID-19. Does such a thing exist?
Well, yes. I mean, COVID-19 being an infection that is going to cause respiratory and some other issues, we noted at the beginning of this whole process, as early as last December, that this was going to become an issue.
Okay.
And so we've been very proactive in my role as chief pharmacist for the Public Hospitals Authority, and working with the Supplies Management Agency. We were able to secure supplies. So we have the IV fluids. We have, we got lucky. We did our homework. So the chloroquine phosphate that everyone's talking about now, we already went ahead and got that before it became an issue. We have the drugs to treat the fevers and the different things. And so we're ready.
Okay.
We're absolutely ready. There's a number of other drugs that are being used. I noted on some of the forums this week, some places are using Calentra, and some places are using Plaquenil. All of these we stock.
Okay.
And so we at the hospital are absolutely ready.
Okay.
In terms of treating if and when we get patients.
Okay. Okay. So that's really good to know. And I think one of the things that's been very impressive about this is the amount of work that has gone into this long before we, the people, were worrying about it. The fact that you, as professionals, have been looking at this from December and doing what needs to be done. So I think that's very comforting. Now let's talk about those people who are on regular medications, right? And so my grandmother is passed now, but when she was alive, we would, of course, have to take care of her in terms of diabetes, in terms of hypertension, and she would rely on the public system in order to do that. And so we would sometimes come into the PMH pharmacy in order to get those medications. Would the public hospital pharmacies still be operating at this time?
Yes, with some alterations. Okay. So, for example, if you normally would get your meds, your outpatient meds filled at Sandilands, that pharmacy is actually in the geriatric hospital.
Okay.
And those patients being at our highest risk, beginning from last week, we closed the outpatient services at SRC.
Okay.
We're only going to be filling inpatient there, so that we minimize that risk. So we were practicing this whole social distancing and isolation from then. And so those patients are being redirected to the pharmacy at Princess Margaret Hospital.
Okay.
Our hours of service are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
Now with the new curfew, we'll probably adjust some hours in terms of to match up with that.
Yeah.
And then on Saturdays from 8 to 4,
okay.
We are closed on Sundays for inpatient services. And of course we run full outpatient services. We run full inpatient services every day from 8 to 11.
Okay.
And so one of the things, too, you have to remember is, and this is for both public and private pharmacy services, if you are feeling ill and you need to get your refills, send somebody for them.
Okay.
All right? Whether you're in the public or the private pharmacies. Our private pharmacy owners here are more than happy to take your refills over the phone because you're already in the system.
Okay.
You can send somebody for them. Just make sure they have an ID and they can pick it up.
Okay.
All right. If you're coming to the hospital or to the private
for private services in our community pharmacies, leave your kids at home.
Okay.
Okay. Try to minimize the amount of people in the stores. Those sort of things. But the pharmacies here remain ready. They've been granted an exemption with the new curfew to be open until 5.
Okay.
The hospital pharmacy, like I said, will be open until 9 at a minimum, and we'll see how that works. But feel free to call. Call your clinic, call the hospital, call your private pharmacy and say, I'm coming in for my refills, or I'd like to come in for X, Y, Z. I'm not feeling well, I'm sending somebody.
Now, with that being said, it obviously makes sense. One, you don't want any other potential customers to interact with some people that may be sick.
Exactly.
But obviously you also don't want the staffs of these establishments to be challenged. Are there any other precautions you're taking from a staff and physician perspective to make sure that people are safe?
Well, if you came into the Princess Margaret Hospital, you would see that all of our staff that are frontline working with either the patients on an outpatient basis or even with our staff on an inpatient basis. So we're gloved, we're masked.
Okay.
I lead by example, so I have mine on. You'll see me walk around the hospital with my gloves on. And we do a frequent change in that. We normally will say to our staff, and then we have the sanitizer there. So they're to sanitize anytime they take off their gloves. We do a minimum change of gloves every 2 hours.
Okay.
A mask every 4 hours.
Okay.
And so we're being very proactive in terms of not just protecting ourselves from, but protecting you as customers who come.
Before we go, one last question that I have for you. Should we, during this time, over this next few days, stock up on any medication? So as an asthmatic, should I be making sure that I've got extra Ventolin inhalers? Should people with other chronic conditions make sure that they've got extra medication? Is there a concern for that?
I wouldn't suggest panic stocking.
Okay.
This is asthma season, so normally most parents would keep an extra one around. That's not a big deal. I can assure you, when I left the hospital last night at late in the evening, I had boxes upon boxes upon boxes. I had a brand new shipment just come in. We're stocked. We're ready. I think you would appreciate that over the last 2 or so years, you haven't seen those what used to be chronic complaints about the hospital being out all the time. So we're going to be ready.
Okay.
And it just, if you give us a day or two to make sure that, I'm going to call in, I want to get my refills, I'll be calling on Monday, you can pick them up on Wednesday.
Okay.
I think if we pace it that way, we'll be fine.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Dr. Smith, and kudos to you and your team for the proactive planning. And certainly we will follow those instructions. Call ahead, make sure that if we're not feeling well, that we send someone in for us, but we should be okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
Good morning, Sunrisers. This is your boy Solomon with your Live Weekend Calendar. Your Live Weekend Calendar urges you to be safe during the COVID-19 outbreak. Stay aware of the latest information on the COVID-19 given by the government authorities, Prime Minister, Minister of Health, the World Health Organization, and other credible outlets. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or clean your hands with an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain social distancing. Maintain at least 1 meter, that's 3 feet, distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Avoid large gatherings whenever possible. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Cover your mouth and nose with your elbow or tissue when you cough or sneeze. Then dispose of the used tissue immediately. Stay at home if you feel unwell. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention and call in advance. Do not neglect physical exercise. Move, swim, walk. Be well. We will overcome if we work together. Alive. Believe in best.
Welcome back to the show, of course, with over 170,000 cases worldwide, over 6,000 deaths, and the number is growing. COVID-19, as we know it, the coronavirus is wreaking havoc worldwide. Very pleased to have once again in the studio Gowan Bowe. He is the CFO at Fidelity Merchant Bank, so many other hats that he wears, and of course Dr. Charlie Bonamy, internal medicine and infectious disease specialist at Oak Tree Medical Center. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you for having us.
This past week, in the Prime Minister's announcement, Schools are closed until April 14th. We have travel bans going straight across the world. Edicts to have social separation, not have gatherings of 10 or more people. It really seems as though the panic is reaching epidemic proportions, pun intended. But Dr. Bonamy, let's just start out once again at the beginning. The WHO officially declared COVID-19 as a pandemic on March 11th. What exactly does that mean?
So what it means simply is that the epidemic, or the number of cases that started in Wuhan, China, has spread to different countries and has crossed continents, and there has been a increased transmission or sustained transmission within those countries.
We've heard the word before, not very often, by world definition. Not many pandemics we've had throughout the history of time. But what makes this one, or is this one, particularly different from, the flu or, Ebola?
So we've known about coronaviruses for a while, actually since the 1960s. Okay. This is actually the first pandemic caused by a coronavirus. Okay. Particularly with this one, the mortality rate compared to the flu is a bit higher, and so it increases our ability to tackle this virus. It increases our means to think about how we need to deal with it, because the rate of death or case fatality rate is higher.
You mentioned the flu, but what this is from the strain, I think what I would have read, of a flu-type illness. But what makes this particular virus different from the flu, different from the cold?
Right, so the coronavirus is a virus that is spread through respiratory droplets, similar to the flu, but the genetic makeup of this virus is different. So we have different types of viruses. So the flu is a type of virus, herpes is a type of virus, this is another type of virus. And the coronavirus, from what we know, usually exists in animals, and during with close contact with humans, or mutations of the virus, it can spread from animals to humans. And so it's kind of different than influenza.
Yeah, but the symptoms are...
So the symptoms do overlap, particularly with this COVID-19, cough and fever have been the predominant symptoms. There are, upper respiratory symptoms such as rhinorrhea or runny nose, sore throat, body aches that are actually also seen in the flu. So it's difficult to, differentiate, or we haven't, if it's a flu or if it's now this coronavirus is causing these symptoms.
Yeah. The government is, governments across the world have made several pronouncements and instructions to its people. In the Bahamas, we've got a hotline, and it's 24 hours. What should somebody be doing immediately? I mean, it's flu season, it's cold season. How do you differentiate between a normal fever and a normal cough and the potential for this virus?
If you have a fever or a cough, stay at home.
Stay at home.
Don't think about, is this flu, is this COVID? Okay. No, stay at home and contact the Ministry of Health hotline if once you display symptoms, or you think you've been exposed or have close contact with somebody who is known to have COVID. Okay, stay at home, contact somebody.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pandemonium that's going on right now, and Godwin, I'm going to get to you in just a second, but are we kind of in overdrive with our panic that says, if you get this virus, it's a death sentence?
No, so panic is definitely not a good thing, but fear sometimes helps us to drive what we need to do, okay? And China has actually showed us exactly what we need to do. We need to, social distance ourselves, stay at home, try not to overwhelm our hospitals, okay? And so panic does not help, but fear is somewhat helping to, allow persons and people to stay at home and do what's necessary.
The flu has had 100,000 deaths for the year. COVID-19, 6,000.
So the flu actually
has affected much more people than COVID-19 has. So if 15 million people get the flu, 100,000 people probably die, okay? What we're seeing with COVID-19, there is a risk that, you know, a lot of people can get COVID-19. And so certainly you still have to be very wary because the rate of death from this virus is higher than the flu is.
We're still kind of working on, you know, what the cure would be. I guess that's probably one of the greatest fears. Gowan, driving up this morning, I saw nobody on the streets. It's something I am not as familiar with. Maybe it's the school traffic, I don't know. But there's definitely a different sense of urgency, you know, since the first official cases happened. And, you know, the hotels are, you know, given, you know, voluntary leave of absence. We have closures, we have travel bans. It's real. I mean, and the economic impact, I imagine, is going to be real. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we have to separate the two things first. I'm going to say the economic consequences of the actions we need to take to protect against the COVID spread is really separate from COVID. And I think appreciate the doctor's explanation in that regard, because what it allows us to say is there are certain things we have to do in terms of the social distancing, in terms of staying away from gatherings, in terms of washing of hands and other hygienic practices, that, if you will, changes our behavior patterns. And if it changes our behavior patterns, that will have a knock-on effect into economic productivity. So if we think about it, first, these schools closed simply because, well, kids sneeze and cough, and, you know, so the transmission among kids carrying it home is probably the risk why you see most countries have now encouraged schools to close, and where they haven't already instructed it. But what we are doing now, we are starting to see the effects of, okay, that change in behavior. Because the hotels, because of the travel ban is not a recession already. It is almost leading to the recession because we don't want persons traveling to spread the virus. The reduction in terms of activity in store fronts that are not essential, like food stores and pharmacies outside of churches. And it's because we're conscious of not being around persons. So why make that distinction is because as we contain the virus, our behaviors can return to normal in a rapid fashion as well, right? Even though we will think about things very differently, right? So when we sit down to have dinner at a restaurant now, you will always be conscious of someone coughing at the table next to you.
If you go.
If you go. But the reality is, if we separate those two things, then it starts saying, well, on the economic front, let's not overreact until the events start taking place, because a downturn in the economy is not like contracting COVID. If I touch you, it doesn't make you lose your job. It doesn't make you unable to purchase items or pay your bills, etc. Your treatment and your response to the virus will have an impact on you. And so that is a longer term. And so from the economic standpoint, I think it's important to say this isn't a race. It's really a marathon that we have to say, well, how do we look at trying to stem the economic downturn as best we can? We've been through this before, I think, is the best way of saying that. That's true. Right? 9/11, did anyone go on a plane after the 9/11, right? The hotels experienced the same elements. The financial crisis, it had a longer tail in terms of what it impacted, but persons didn't have disposable income, so getting on to planes, cruise ships, and the others. So I think what we have to bear in mind is say that we have been here before, not in the same, I'm going to say, excited manner, right? This has changed the dynamic. But when we think about economic recovery or we think about economic stemming, it has to be with a pause. It has to be thinking, what is it that I'm going to do? Because me touching you does not make you lose your job tomorrow. Understanding what's going to come about is, and so what are we going to do to try and stem that going forward?
Well, I mean, you know, again, you're right. It's an absolute marathon. The question is, we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know how much water we're going to have. It's just a different type of feel. I mean, you talk about 9/11. You talk about, you know, even, you know, locally hurricanes, etc. But the global proportions, I mean, you would have seen the stock market in the United States, I mean, a 3,000-point drop this past week, the highest single-day drop in its history.
this fear that you're encouraging us to kind of keep calm, but it's global. I mean, and again, the media, the awareness, the ability to communicate. Who's leading the drive on the other side of that message?
And I'd say that's part of the problem. We live in an information age, but that has good information and misinformation. And the problem is, how do you discern between the two, right? If you look at the stock markets, to the average person watching the stock markets, it is absolute pandemonium and craziness. To the investors and the persons who know the stock markets, they understand what's taking place. It is the persons who are looking for profit opportunities. So the one who's gambling on which company is going to announce a profit warning next, they're trying to sell high so that when it comes back, they buy low. And so when you start thinking about volatility in the stock markets, it is not, if you will, craziness. It is commerce. It is persons trying to make a profit. He who has cash is going to be king. And I think, but to the average person, that what do the reporters say? Stock markets crash 3,000 points, when in reality, what does it signal? The reality is the underlying fundamentals of companies are going to be hurt. Their revenues are going to be down. Profits are going to be down. And so if you think about the ability of a company to pay dividends, to distribute earnings and capital to its shareholders, are going to be impacted. And so from that perspective, there is going to be an impact, but is it as radical as we see now?
All right, one final question. You talked about changing in the social behavior. I imagine a similar type of change in our financial behavior needs to happen because again, the reality of the situation is business is slow. Persons are being encouraged not to go places, so this is going to have an economic impact. So, what do you say? Even though we don't have a time frame that in mind, what should people be doing in their homes and even on their jobs?
I think two aspects to it. The first one is your budgeting behavior, that it is around not going into what I'm going to say bunker mode. It is not a hurricane where if I bunker down for 2 days and I emerge after the sun is up. It is going to be a long period. So you need to be looking at saying, well, do I take my luxuries and I dial them back now? But I need to continue to eat. I need to continue to drink. So it is not about stopping spending and it's not about panic spending. It's about saying, how do I continue? As it relates to how I do so, right? We have been encouraging digitization for a long time. You go into Europe and even Canada, if you pull out a dollar bill or a physical note, people look at you cross-eyed because they're not used to it. They're used to card, they're used to tap, they're used to using the mobile devices. So now when we're talking about, well, do I want to be in a crowded space? I can pay all my bills online. I can transfer money amongst fellow persons online. I can do a number of things from my own home environment. I can shop using a credit card or a debit card instead of using cash or even the new payment provider services that are there. So the reality is, it is saying, well, how do I sort of modernize myself during this time of uncertainty, because behind every dark cloud is a silver lining, and so we have to look at the opportunities to learn and grow whilst we're fighting this pandemic.
All right, thank you so much, Garwin. Certainly we can continue in this vein, but again, I guess the simple message is govern yourself accordingly. Try to keep it as simple as possible, and great hygiene. Great hygiene. We've been with Dr. Charlene Bonamy, I hope I said your name right, internal medicine, infectious diseases specialist at Oak Tree Medical Center, and of course, the Garwin Bowe, CFO, Fidelity Merchant Bank. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
That's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Certainly wishing you a safe, hopefully, like, I don't know what
It's
to
safe,
call
it's
it.
pleasant, a separated, a quiet, an indoor weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, just govern yourselves accordingly, right? I mean, it's in the national interest, it's in your own personal interest, right?
It certainly is, it certainly is. And it appears that we will not be observing these quarantine rules. We will be here on Monday. And so we will see you then. Bye. Yes, it is what it is.